Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome everyone to our next event talk. Sonal, I like to pretend that this is my own podcast and TV show. And this is I've always wanted to be kind of like Oprah-like. I've never had a TV show. So this is so fun for me to interview, top people in the industry from all over the world. So welcome, Sonal Shah. I have admired you and the events you've done since I met you, I think 8 years ago, maybe even longer. And I
Oh, you're so sweet.
during our first call, just understanding the scope and the scale and the locations you're doing events. I'm just in awe of you and really admire the brand that you've built. And while we're waiting for people to come in, and then I'll kind of formally introduce you, would love if you could go to your chat and change it to everyone. So you can post where are you zooming in from, your name, your location. Our last one we had with Colin Cowie, we had people from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from all over.
Do I get to type in
Now
this?
you can also you can say you're in New York. You're welcome to. I am zooming in here from Chicago, but I would love to hear where people are zooming in from before we get started. So we have Las Vegas. We have I definitely know there's a lot of people in Chicago joining in. Aspen. I love Aspen. Sonal. Can we do an event in Aspen together? Uh,
I love Aspen too.
yeah. Have you
Any
done
chance I
events
get to?
there, Sonal?
I have not. I've been on two FAMs in Aspen and it is so incredible. I'm just waiting for the right couple to discover Aspen and come with
Yes.
me to Aspen.
Yes. Well, we have a lot of Charleston, Florida, New York, India. I was so glad we have some people from India, Dallas, all
Wow.
over. And so I think we'll wait a couple minutes for people to join. We had over 500 people register for this webinar. So Sonal, and I did mention before, more people than any webinar sent in questions in advance.
Really?
Yes, yes,
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
yes.
That doesn't make me
I
nervous at all, Julie.
oh,
But
sorry.
thank you.
The pressure's off. This is just going to be an intimate conversation between you and
Okay.
I. We're going to
Okay.
pretend there's not all these people from around the world looking at you, Sonal.
No pressure at all.
No pressure.
But
But
welcome everybody, and thank you so much, Julie, for having me. This is quite incredible, and I feel very fortunate that our calendars collided, and here we are, which
great.
is
Well,
sometimes very hard to do, right, for both
it
of
is. I
us.
mean, the two of us between travel and your event schedule, I know it's really crazy. So we appreciate you giving us and our community the time. And
Of
before I
course.
jump in, that we have about half the people that registered are newer to PartySlate. So I'll introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm Julie Novak, the CEO and co-founder of PartySlate. I started the company almost 10 years ago, which I can't believe it. And Sonal, was a customer of this industry. I was planning corporate events at the digital agency I ran. I was planning fundraisers, and I wanted to find a place to find incredible venues and event professionals, but also to get inspired for the galas and the corporate events. My wedding was 20 years ago, so that also inspired me. And I used a website called Houzz, Houzz, to do my kitchen
I
redesign.
remember that. I
And I'm like,
remember
oh
that.
my God, I want something content rich where I can get to know these professionals, but also hire them to help me with my new house. And that's what led me to dreaming out loud for about 3 years, to anyone who would listen, and started Party Slate about 10 years ago to really connect people planning events with people of all types of event professionals. And also now providing new tools for the industry to make digital marketing easier. So that's a little bit of my background. We'll talk a little bit more about PartySlate later. But Sonal, tell us a little bit about you and what inspired you to get into the events industry. I'd love to know your founding story.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Julie, first and foremost, and thank you everybody for joining. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous, so I'm just going to pretend like I'm talking to you, and that's it. Um, I got started, oh my gosh, almost like 22 years ago. But my entire background has been in hospitality management. So I used to work for Marriott, I work with Starwood. That's what I went to school for. So being in the events portion of it kind of came naturally because that's what I did at all of these properties that I worked at. And then when I moved to New York, I said, wow, there's a lot of South Asians here, but nobody that's really servicing that industry.
Yes.
Um, at least that segment of the industry. And so I really wanted to do something where I could combine all of my background in hospitality management, but also being South Asian myself to be able to say, okay, how do we make these events better? Because they weren't. And I just went to one too many really bad Indian weddings where there was just, you could tell that they wanted to do a really good job, but it just didn't translate into like what they were actually putting out there for their guests. And that's kind of like how I got started, being able to just take the risk and being able to say, okay, here is a entire community of people that are not throwing the kind of events that I was used to putting on even like 20 some odd years ago. Because I just think that they were just falling short of being able to have someone who could like pull all the reins together and make it all happen while the
Yeah.
family just relaxed. There wasn't anything like that.
Yeah. And so what got you motivated to leave your kind of steady job in hospitality to start your own business? Because I can tell you from experience, it's really hard to do that. Did you start doing it on the side? Did you do it full time right away? What gave you that confidence?
No, I was doing it on the side. I basically was working at a hotel and doing my 9 to 5, and then this idea came to me, and I had a little bit of capital that was saved, and then I said, okay, why don't I start just planning this on the side? Which a lot of people start that way, right?
Yeah.
They start doing it without throwing in their towel on their full-time job and kind of just dabble in it. But back in the day, it was really hard to find anybody that would give me the experience in this. There was like no such thing as like an internship or being able to shadow people because it was just so new.
Yes.
Um, and I think that just, I kind of had to like jump in and be able to say, like, let me just fumble through this like we all do at
Yeah.
times. And the only thing I really knew was where to advertise and where to market. So, my parents watched all these like they were called like Bollywood shows and
Yeah.
these Bollywood channels that I didn't really know about, right, growing up in Ohio. And when I moved to New York, all these media outlets really existed that
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me start taking out small ad spaces just to put my name out there in like the community. And I think that that's really was like the pivot point. But really, back then it didn't cost that much. And it was
Yeah.
like the easiest
Yes.
way to kind of enter and put my name out there. And I was shocked. I mean, honestly, my first year in business, I think I did 45 weddings.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah, it
incredible,
was
Sonal.
yeah, it was scary
Yeah.
because I mean, obviously all these people like you could figure out that there was a need for this, but at
Yeah.
the same time, I had no clue what I was doing. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let me figure out how to make my packages and how do I talk to clients. And
Yes.
I didn't have an office, so I'm like, what do I even meet them? But that's kind of like, how I got started.
Yeah. And what were some of the things, like if you could start over again and you're like talking to your younger self, like what are some big lessons learned after you're building this, really incredible brand that you have today?
I think that it's really hard in the beginning to get people to take you seriously,
Yeah.
especially like your own friends and family, because they don't really understand what you're trying to do, right? It's like a vision that you might have. You don't know how long you're going to be doing this, but you're basically on this cusp of quitting your full-time job that's, giving you revenue, you're
Yes.
providing for your family, and you're taking a step into this world of the unknown where you don't really know where, the money is going to come from. You don't know how long you're going to be doing this. You don't know where your next client is coming from. And I think that for me, it was really hard to have people take me seriously because back then it was like a lot of people were like, well, when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they didn't consider it to be something
Yeah.
that
It's
was
kind of like
lucrative.
on the side hustle. Yeah.
Correct. It was like, oh, that's cute that you're
Yeah.
doing this, right? So I think that that was one of the biggest things that I had to overcome, just being able to say to myself, like, this is something that I see, for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think the pivot point, which, again, now looking back, I thought I was crazy, is I'm in my office space today, which is the same office space that I had 21 years ago. And when I got this office space, I ended up signing a lease for 11 years
Wow.
in Midtown Manhattan, in New York City. And I remember like some of my family were like, why don't you just get a lease for like a year or two?
Yeah.
Like, why do you need it for 11 years?
I
And I'm
love
like,
that you went all the way in. You're like,
well, I was just like, well, I don't plan on giving up in a couple of years. So why
yeah,
would I only
good
sign
for
a lease
you.
for a couple of years? that was kind of the pivot point.
Yeah, I love it. And so as you started to build your brand, we know advertising marketing is really important, but we know referrals are everything. And even the people, the guests and the other friends in the wedding and things like that. But we also know from our research and outside research that the second they get your name, they will go to 8 to 10 and 7 to 10 digital touch points. And of course, I'm biased. Your PartySlate profile is beautiful, and we're going to show it in a second. But you've also done a really great job on social media, telling your story, making yourself, yes, you're this elevated brand, but you're also approachable. Tell me a little bit about how you think about kind of your digital presence and what's important to you. Even though referrals are, of course, everything, we know digital weighs in on who gets that first call.
Yeah, I mean, it's also been a learning experience for me, right? Because when I started, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook,
Yep.
there was nothing, right? And so the word of mouth was everything, which I never really forgot about. But I think over time, I had to kind of educate myself to realize, okay, it's not just about the 300 or 400 people that are in the room experiencing this wedding. It's also about the broader community outside of that wedding, outside of the state. And I think that definitely like the most important channels have been like Instagram, TikTok.
Yep.
I think for me, organizing everything on PartySlate has been
Yep.
so important because
Yes.
there's a way that we can showcase our weddings. But I also feel like I've had to educate myself in getting someone who does our like videos, our photos. We fly people out to even the most remote locations to
Yes.
be able to film us. And for me, I am not one of those people that can really easily put myself out there. Like I don't like to be followed about by a camera. I
Yep.
get super duper duper self-conscious. So I think it's just also get telling myself that it's okay to put yourself out there. Because
Yes.
again, I'm not of the social media generation, right?
Yes.
So, but everybody that we cater to, they are. So
Does
how
someone
do we
help
get
you?
them?
Someone asked, does someone help you with social media? Do you have an internal person or do you have someone outside?
We have both. We have someone internally that helps us do all the crazy, wacky things that we've been doing, which again takes me out of my comfort zone. But then we have someone that we fly out, both photo and video
Right.
for all of our weddings. I don't want to take anything away that our clients have paid for with their photo video
Yes.
companies. So the only way that I can kind of show the behind the scenes and what actually happens at our wedding is to bring in our own people to
Yeah.
make that
And I
content.
think if you can't afford, to have that resource, even having someone in your own team, people love the behind the scenes. They love to, move the curtain and see what's happening. And I think, again, you do a really good job, and many people in the
Oh,
industry
thank
do,
you.
to kind of with stories or reels to kind of show what did it take to actually create this beautiful, piece of art, which is, the event industry. So great. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit, and I would love to share what I see on your PartySlate profile. And one thing for the new people on the call that haven't been on before is one thing that we believe is that your content is at the core of your marketing strategy. Without having a place to organize and share and connect with your network, you're not leveraging your content to the fullest. So with your profile page, I really, we've been working closely with your team to show your stunning events, to really clearly you're a destination planner, you're showing Italy, you're showing US, you're showing a lot of different things. We wanted to make it easy for people, if you have things you want to announce, you have a new book coming out, you have a webinar you're doing, all your press and recognition, this is all important content, your videos. But this is where most people spend their time on PartySlate, is looking at your real event albums and really an organized view that complements your Instagram and complements your website. But of course, it's much, much easier to update than a website. A couple of events that jumped out. I love this stunning event. I don't know if you could tell us a little bit about this Under the City Stars event.
Yeah, coincidentally, I just met with this couple again yesterday and we had lunch. So this couple came to me. She's Cuban. He is Pakistani, Muslim, in some rando way. They just met at the hospital because he's an amazing surgeon and they fell in love. And, it's like our whole take on it was in what universe do these two people come together that had such different upbringings? And so we had this whole, written in the stars kind
Oh,
of a theme.
I
And
love.
then our dear friend Clayne, he ended up taking them, I think, someplace in Utah to be able to get photographed. And he took this one beautiful photograph, and it literally led to all of these ideas. And how can we tell their story through this whole quote with the constellations and written in the stars? And this was at the Mandarin, which is one of my favorite venues in the city. And it just all came together. I mean, obviously for us, we're just one component of the entire wedding weekend, right? So between all of the other vendors, the decorators, the photographers, the venue, it all basically um, needs to fit together like pieces of a puzzle that make it look the way that it does.
It's just stunning. That one, when I was looking through your profile page, like I sometimes get lost when I look at these events, and that's what we want, people that are trying to hire you to get lost in your events. And then this event, I'm speechless about. You're,
Oh,
celebrating
thank you.
20 years in the industry. And tell us a little bit about this beautiful event. And again, what I love about PartySlate is you said it takes a team, it takes a village to put these experiences together. It's almost like building a town, right? And for one night. And you can really highlight all these amazing people, your photographer, your amazing, your venue, your band, your lighting company, everyone that brought this together is featured here on this. It's almost, you could think of it as like a blog, a little blog about this. But tell us about how this event came together. And I love seeing your celebrity friends here.
We love throwing parties, not only for other people, but also for ourselves. And I think over the years, we've come to a realization that we have to celebrate our own victories and our own milestones. So we did a beautiful 15-year party, and then this was our 20-year party. And literally, our team and we were trying to figure out what do we do for the 20-year that would top like our 15-year party.
Yeah.
And this was at the St. Regis. We had the most phenomenal team of vendors that came together. And honestly, again, I say it all the time, we're just one component
Yes.
of what makes any party extravagant and over the top and memorable. And when we had, the team at Design House, CGA being able to have Jordan and like
Yes.
it was
It's
I
stunning.
don't even know what happened to the 5 hours that this party was there because I felt like I got there and it was like time to leave.
Did you
And
kind of feel like the bride at the wedding where it just went by like
I
this?
I feel like I talked to people, but I don't remember talking to
Yeah.
anybody. So I can kind of understand, through this experience what it's like for a lot of our couples, but it was insane. I I think I'm gonna be in like some nursing home and still remember this and still remember all these, amazing events we do. And not I don't even know if I told you this, Julie, but we literally have one person that's dedicated on our team that just uploads to PartySlate. I mean, I think she probably spends like at least a couple of hours every week, and that is like part of what she does. And I never realized how important that was till I see these collections of photos together. Because again, yes, like sometimes if you're just a one person owner of your company, right? But I really think that some of these things are so important to be able to go back and just have these collections because otherwise, where do you house all these things, right?
Exactly. And I think, Sonal, to your point, we've done a lot of research on this. Having one place to have all your content is really a game changer to growing your business and making this crazy social media and everything else a little bit easier. So let's say you did want to find that, red photo that we just looked at, gorgeous red photo. You can now just put in red and all of your red photos will come up. And what I
Yeah, I
love
just learned this today.
yeah, so
I
we
didn't
like
even
people
know
to see
that.
it for the first time. And so let's say you wanted to share this stunning photo, your social media, either your consultant or your in-house person can now come here and download the photo in seconds and then do the handles and hashtags. And we actually generate high-ranking AI hashtags. And then you can copy this. And then the thing I love about this is I always get so nervous when I post to Instagram that I'm going to miss the photographer. I'm going to miss someone that was part of it. Now you can actually come and get that photo that we just downloaded. Now I got to find the photo. Hold on to my desktop and my downloads. Where is that photo? Okay. I'm going to find it. Now, you know what? I changed the order. I'm going to put in a list. Hold on one second. Here's that photo. And after I pull the photo up, what I used to do, Sonal, is I used to take about 15 minutes to make sure I had all the credits. And now I just paste all the credits in.
I know, it's amazing.
Within seconds. And so what did take 30 minutes now with PartySlate Pro and search my photos and your content library, it takes seconds. And I think what your team is doing such a good job is you can actually go into your event album, and if the name The Plaza is in it, all your Plaza events are going to come up. So let's say you wanted to look at the photos from your fairy tale wedding or from anywhere here, you apply that and all those photos will come up from that wedding. So we want to make it so easy. I like to say that my mom could find the right photo and she's in her 80s. All your wedding aisles are going to come up. Everything that you found from anywhere across all your events without any manual tagging. I love Sonal, you know, I'm obsessed with this event. Maybe you remember like, oh, I haven't posted this in a while. I know you think this photo has been overshared. You've posted a lot, but new couples may not have seen this stunning photo.
Correct.
And then you can download it. Don't have to worry, where's those hashtags? Where are those handles? So again, your team is doing a great job maximizing their use of your content through PartySlate. And I believe other than referrals that lead to digital, content is king and queen of our industry. And you have so many great photographers and videographers that you work with. I'm just excited for more people to have access to their own content to build their brand. And one of the things, Sonal, that I haven't shown you yet, which I'm excited about, is now in your content library, you can have both public and private events. So let's say you did
Oh, I didn't know that, really?
I know, brand new. That's why you haven't seen it yet. Maybe
Wow.
you did an event for a really high profile tech executive or someone at Google or a celebrity. You can still have the photos at your fingertips, but really easy. You can add or take away from your public profile. And so this is a modern AI driven Dropbox for all of your content. The thing I love about it is when you're credited by photographers, it automatically shows up in your content library and you can decide to show it or hide it. So we are excited to make it easy to access all your content within seconds through really modern AI. So I could talk all day about this. Ronald, is there anything else you wanted me to show on your profile page before we go back into our interview?
No, I think that it's great that you come up with different ways to be able to categorize all these things and how people could look it up. Because believe it or not, even when I'm looking for things, PartySlate comes up and I'm like, okay, what is this about this venue that I've never been to before that I could research? So we do use it all the time in order to just have a lot more knowledge of whatever location that we're going to as well.
That's great. And also, you know, Sonal, you've made such great relationships with venues. And we always say venues do get selected first. Sometimes it's the planner, but a lot of times it's the venue. And the fact that like the Plaza New York, you've done, you know, 6 events with them, they can easily click right now to the venue, the Plaza, and they can see, oh, maybe the Plaza I should consider. And on our new profile page, we made it even easier for them to access your gallery, to see their different events. We really want to differentiate that the testimonials, the connections, you know, right here, they can see all the people that have worked at the Plaza. We want to make it really easy for them to find all their connections. So we're excited to connect the industry. You're connected in the real world. Why not amplify those connections with venues and planners and other kind of first selected partners to actually get more out of those relationships. So this new venue profile just launched. We're getting great feedback from consumers. And again, just to make this so easy to get to that gallery and the testimonials. Next, we're going to do the redesign on the planner and other profiles. So really excited to share this. I know I get very geeky about this, but we think the professionals that best leverage their content, their photos and their videos have an upper hand. And your team has been a pleasure to collaborate with. And we really do think you take advantage of all our features, and we admire your social media as well.
Well, you guys do a great job of explaining things, and I think one of the I was so in the beginning very overwhelmed by everything that Party Slate has to offer. But when you spend time actually talking to people that you could set up like weekly calls, monthly calls. And I find that so helpful, not just for myself, but even our person at our company that works on this, that
Yes.
they basically have that one-on-one to help them manage all of this because there's so much to know.
There is a lot to know, and we've done a much better job at building kind of, quarterly or twice a year touch points. We know you're really busy. When we can get you on a call to help you, we want to be there. We want to ultimately help you grow your business through your content. And through these new tools, we're also going to be rolling out more at our member only events that we're hosting in New York, LA, Miami, and Chicago in the next 6 months, where we're calling it a user conference. Like we want
Mhm.
customers, members to come and learn how to become better digital marketers and how to extract the most value from this content that you have. And I always say your photos are the art. PartySlate's just this modern art museum that's showcasing your art. We want
Showcasing
to
it.
disappear in the background and your art is in your photos and videos. And over 4 million people have visited PartySlate over the last year, and many of them have reached out or gone to your website or social media. Our goal is to just make it easier for you to build your brand. But many people did send in questions in advance,
Oh,
Sonal.
great. Okay.
And they want to hear from you on a couple of things. And please, if you guys do have questions, you can put it in the chat. Like, would love to, hear what questions you guys have for Sonal. But some people in advance kind of asked you. I know it's really hard to predict trends, but what are some things you're excited about for kind of 2026 and beyond? Or like what things do you see that are changing in the events industry that you're excited about?
Oh, there are so many things. I think that since last year, we probably have done the most amount of property buyouts. So this is when, our couples take over the entire property. I think that it's so insane and so amazing because they're the only people there. You don't have to turn down the volume. You can, have this pool area open whenever you want. You can do, I find it so helpful to be able to do these buyouts, especially with a large number of guests that we have. I
Yes.
think that that we've seen like on the up and up since
Yeah.
probably even like 2023.
Yeah.
Last year and next year, I think like almost every single one of our weddings is a buyout.
Yeah.
The live entertainment is huge. I'm a huge fan. I cannot tell you the exclamation point that it puts on your event when
Yes.
you have live entertainment. Not just bands or like the sax person, but like real life celebrity entertainment, because you could go to a concert and pay for this person to perform in front of 100 200,000 people, but now you're bringing them into this intimate environment with 200 300 people. I can't put words on how that makes you feel as the host of that party. And I think that it's definitely worth it. Hiring a stylist, I mean, everything has to be so curated with like the decor, the sound, the lighting, but why not the guests and the bride and groom and their family? So we see that all the time. And I think that there's a lot more like pre-wedding events leading up to it,
Yeah.
just because at least for us, we have a ton of pre-wedding events. We have the farewell brunch, and I just think that that is such a great way to have more and more people experience different cuisines, different entertainment, different decor. So we definitely see that being a huge trend moving forward.
Awesome. And we have a question. Someone asked for what do wedding planners look for when they look at venues? So we've done a lot of research on this as well, but you've worked with a ton of venues, so you know a lot of them, but sometimes you're going to a destination where you haven't done an event. So we hope PartySlate, we're glad you're using it and other sources help you learn. Like, what do you look for to get on your short list? In addition to
I
like
think
capacity and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's really important that venues have documents that are put together that basically walk you through the space, right?
Yes.
Because whether the couple lives in the US and they're getting married in Europe or wherever, I mean, it would be great to have like some sort of like a virtual tour from like the time that are in the porte cochere walking in and how you get through the property, because it's
Yes.
almost like you're there and the technology exists, as well as being able to do all of your property diagrams, like where's your ballroom in conjunction to this?
Yeah.
Where is, how many ballrooms do you have? Sometimes I feel like people send us menus and they
Yeah.
send us like beautiful photos that we could probably find on their website or through PartySlate, but I want to actually experience what it feels like to walk through that venue. And I
Yes.
think that that is something that's completely invaluable. Like venues that do that, I feel like there are
Can't
so
play
many
makeup.
more couples that book
Yeah.
sight unseen, right? It's
Yep.
very hard to get them to book sight unseen, but I think if these technology tools exist, property should be taking
Yeah,
advantage of that.
we actually have seen a big uptick because we have the ability to embed a virtual tour and unlimited number of videos on our profile page. We're seeing a big uptick in videos, and we want to see more venues, take advantage of that because the people want to experience it and they can't always be there. They can't always come for events.
Correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah,
ideal.
absolutely.
Okay, no, another question that we got in advance is, what are, you started doing 40, 50 events, and I'm sure not all of them are huge, huge budget, but your first year doing this, what were the steps you took to break into the luxury market and attract those, high budget clients?
I think for me, it was just understanding more about luxury and how our clientele really think, like who our brides and grooms are, like, where do they shop? What are their trends? Like, what are they actually into? And I think it's also modifying your behavior, right? Because you can't speak on luxury if you're not understanding luxury yourself. So
Yes.
I think that for me, it's just been being able to, go to different places, learn about different brands. How do they market? How do they somebody like Estee Lauder, which is like this huge brand that's, however many years old. How do they pivot and start appealing to the younger generation, right? So they brought on someone like Kendall Jenner, and listening to the CEO of Estee Lauder be able to talk about this, I think it opens up your mind into what you need to do yourself,
Yeah.
right? And how do you need to position your pricing, your attire, locations that you go, properties that you pitch in order to kind of sell luxury, and
Yes.
knowing who your clientele is, right? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in this rut that they're doing weddings at the same locations over and over and over,
Yes.
and they want to pivot, but they don't know how. I think it has to a lot to do with being able to take yourself out of your comfort zone and go to these events, go meet with these venues to
Yes.
be able to understand who are their clientele, and I
Yes.
think that that helps you improve yourself.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I would recommend, and I've heard some people do this, is even getting involved with a high profile nonprofit and
Correct.
being on the board and offering to, I know you don't want to offer your services for free, but maybe to plan a high profile New York gala and meeting the couples and the people on the board. They do tend to be a higher net worth. The ability to get involved and give donations to these mission critical causes, whether it's cancer research or it's a museum. It's just being in that world and making those relationships, I think are really, really important in order to
Absolutely.
elevate your brand. The other question is, when you think about luxury service and what is the expectation, we're really with this ultra luxury wedding couple that you're working with. What are some tips you can give or perspective you can give on, working with such a large budget and I'm imagining high demand, high stress situation?
I think that you have to not really have an ego about what you do.
Yeah.
For any of these couples, it's hopefully a once in a lifetime kind of weekend, and what they're putting together, whether it's them, their parents, their families. I think you really can't have an ego about what you do. I think you have to be you have to be very much the expert, right? That's why they've hired you. And
Yes.
I hate to say that our couples don't really know what they want, but they really don't know what they want. They've only experienced what they've experienced, but they're coming to you as someone who has this worldly knowledge about how to elevate their event. And that's why they come to you. And I think that you have to be very humble, but still very opinionated on what you think is going to make their event, huge and successful. And I think a lot of it also has to do with, giving examples. I mean, I love having my current couples talk to my past couples, because
Yes.
those past couples were in that same position before, right? They didn't know how their wedding was going to turn out. They didn't know what they didn't know. And I think that all of these couples talking to each other is super duper helpful. And the current couple realizing not only, okay, these are the ideas that Sonal might have or her team might have, right? But it's also knowing how these steps all connect.
Yes.
Because most of our clients, they've never done this before. And so they're turning to you as the expert. But I think that it's also being able to be humble enough to know, okay, this is what we can do. This is, what the budget points are,
Yeah.
and being honest and upfront and letting them know that.
Yeah, I think the more transparent you can be and letting them understand,
Correct.
you make these changes, here are the 16 additional steps we'll need to take, and kind of selling the value when you do have to do a scope change or increase your budget. I found that from building large scale websites for 20 years. Sometimes they don't understand the impact of their changes and they think it's small, but it actually is pretty significant. So how do you manage staying in with budget, or are you charging on kind of a percentage, or if you do mind talking a little bit about how you think about pricing? We did get asked that a couple times.
We do both. We have a flat fee as well as a percentage. And again, it all depends on the number of guests that the person has, how many events they want, because obviously in the South Asian community, we have tons of events that are all part of the wedding weekend. So I think that really it's also us. The first thing that we do after a client hires us is do their budget. And I think sometimes they're kind of shocked at the budget. So we've also pivoted where we do like a low, a medium, and a high budget so they can see the variance, right? And I think that it's very interesting because a lot of times I tell my couples, well, you hired us because you were drawn to the images and the videos that you've seen of the work that we've done in the past. So you really have to be able to focus on that. And really, I mean, the budget conversation has to happen very, very early on. And you do have to manage client expectations, because what I do is just ask the couple what's really important. Is it the food? Is it the entertainment? Is it the invitation? Is it the photographer? Do you like photo more than you like video? But when you consistently hear that all of those things are important, they're kind of almost having a buy-in to what you're saying,
Yes.
right? Because we're not asking them to pick one or the other, because they really can't. And I think that's when they come to the realization that each and every line item on the budget is hugely important.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I think we also set the pace of how do we manage the venue, and then your photo, your video, your DJ, your hair and makeup. And I don't go on to the next chapter of planning till we get this chapter closed and
Right.
signed and deposit paid. And I think that's also helpful in them to like manage their budget.
So kind of milestones, like getting to different.
Correct.
Yeah, I think
Correct.
that's really important because there's a time and place to have a check-in on scope and what does it look like and guest count and all those other things. But I do find it, I've heard this a lot from planners, incredibly challenging to, even no matter what the budget is, to educate the client on what things take. I think many people think it's easier than it is to change the setup of a room or move things around and all the implications. Think about like a house. Well, I'm at the kitchen over here now. There's a lot that's a big change, the floor plan. So I admire
And
how you guys manage your clients.
yeah, and I consistently tell our clients, right? You want a certain caliber of wedding. That's why you came to me.
Yes.
So we're not going to do anything just, like 50%. We
Yeah.
need it to be where every touch point. And then I always bring in the guest experience.
Yes.
What is the point in you flying 300 people to Italy if you're not going to give them the most stellar experience,
Yeah.
right? Because, and that all comes at a cost.
Yes.
And if that is not a priority, then why are we going to Italy? You could just get married here in the
Yes.
States, right? So
Yes.
I think all of those things play into being able to educate them on how this is going to be perceived by their guests.
And a couple of people asked, and someone asked in the chat, how did you get your first destination event, and how did you position yourself as a destination planner versus a luxury planner that does mainly, East Coast events?
I think you have to be careful what you ask for, because I think in the very beginning, I'm like, oh my God, I would love to do weddings in the Caribbean. And then there's like this whole slew of weddings in the Caribbean. And then I said at one point, I would love to do weddings in Europe. And I think it's also, I travel a lot. So
Yeah.
when you travel a lot, you have a vast, extensive knowledge that you could bring to people. And, a lot of times our couples don't know that they want to get married at this location, right? Like everybody that calls us, they're like, I want to get married in Lake Como. I want to get married in Lake Como. I'm like, I know, but Europe is huge. Why do we always need to go to the same? I mean, I love Lake Como too, but
Yeah.
there's a million other places you could go. But if I didn't constantly educate myself by traveling and visiting these places, reading, I'm constantly reading about hotel openings, how many rooms, what's the spa like. I think all of these things really help to educate me in
Yeah.
order to educate my clients on where to take them. And I think you have to just speak very confidently about where are the new places to take people. And again, everybody that comes to us, I want something unique. I want something different. I want something unique. So you have to go someplace unique and different in order to give people unique and different, right?
Yeah. And when you're thinking about these venues you want to work with or new venues, or you're thinking about, you work with an incredible, caliber of decor companies, rental companies, what do you look for, in order to almost let someone new break into your circle? What are you looking for? I know you don't use just the same all the time, but you do have trusted partners, and I think that's a part of our industry. But if someone new is looking to prove their value and get on your radar, what would you look for to add them into your world?
I think that they have to have a very methodical way of being able to run their business. I mean, there's a lot of times that, photographers will call us, so we'd love to work with you. Okay, great. What do you know about the South Asian community? What
Yeah.
do you know about our weddings? Did you do the research? Did you anticipate, how many hours you're going to be working over a Thursday, Friday, Saturday? It's the same thing with decorators. A lot of decorators call us and they're like, we want to do all your weddings. I'm like, are you sure? Because you're not going to sleep, you're not going to eat, and you're
Yes.
probably going to be, sleeping under a chair. I
Yeah.
mean, South Asian weddings are hard.
Yep.
They're grueling, right? Just because of the amount of hours
Yes.
and then the amount of guests, the amount of events that we have. So I really would tell people, be very, very careful what you ask for, but also know what you're getting into, do the research. And, we have people that call us all the time. They're like, hey, can I set up a one-on-one with you? I am in, I don't know, South Carolina. I've never done an Indian wedding. What do I need to know? And I'm happy to be able to help them because to me, it just, at least they're going into a conversation being well educated on what they need to talk about,
Yes.
right? I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think there's so many different sources, different ways to learn. And even if you're a photographer, being a second shooter for someone, or like, just getting that experience, because if you can't talk the talk, then it's hard for you to trust putting them on, one of your events without them knowing what to expect.
Yeah, and I honestly also feel that, the vendors need to be able to develop that relationship, even if there's a planner involved, right? And I know that a lot of planners, there's different ways that they work with vendors and their clients, but I always feel like the client is also the client of a photographer or the decorator. So you have to have that communication directly with the client to get to know them.
Yeah.
And I am huge into gifting, right? Like that's my love language. And I feel like, if you get on a Zoom call with a couple, besides just your pitch, like what else is attracting them to you? Because they're going to interview 15 different photographers. What makes you different?
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's as little as, hey, can I take you out to dinner? Can I take you out to lunch? Can I take you out for a drink? Because to me, again, call me old school, but one-on-one,
Yes.
in front of that client and how they interact with each other is huge.
Huge.
Sometimes, in the South Asian community, it's not just about the couple, the whole family shows up. So
Yeah.
now it's like, okay, here's mom, dad, siblings. They're all involved. But you would never know that if you just got on a Zoom call with just the bride, right? And that whole family dynamics is so important when you're planning their wedding or trying to be one of those vendors that is working with that couple.
Absolutely. And getting to know like the facial expressions and body language and all that in person. We're big believers that nothing compares to in person. Even though we're a digital company, our goal is
Yeah.
people as quickly as possible to you, whether it's Zoom call or in person. I think that's really great. Jean asked this, how did you jump from, just yourself? You have an amazing team, doing all the planning and client work yourself with a vendor and creative partners to having a staff. 'Cause a lot of people worry about, oh, I have to pay the salaries, and should I just contract labor? There's pros and cons to
To
both,
both,
but
yeah.
I do think I always like to say, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean it, you can't focus on higher value business activities like the meetings you have in person and others if you're doing all the administrative work. So when did you decide to make your first full-time hire, and what does your team look like today?
I mean, I think it was like year two or year three. And I was lucky enough that, I had someone that was with me for what, 7 years, and another person that was with me for 6 years. And now we have someone who's been with me for 10 years, and she's our COO, like my right and my left hand
Yes.
person. I think that any business owner, you need to have a team. And that team doesn't necessarily need to be like, a huge team that's on payroll. Like, recruit your best friend to be like your sounding board, right? Like, does this sound right? Should I wear this? I mean, you need to surround yourself with like a group of people. And sometimes it might be like another planner or another photographer, or, I go to these conferences and I meet such incredible people that they want to learn from me, but I also learn from them, right? Like, what do they do? And I think that having that team, how do we put it together? I mean, everywhere we go, if I see someone who is very customer service oriented, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's the bar that I go to, I mean, all of these people they work within that same geographic location that I hang out at. And I'm constantly seeing how do these people interact with the customer, because I think it's huge, right?
Huge.
And especially in a digital age where it's like so easy to just be texting someone and not have that face to face. I definitely spend a lot of time observing, like, who are these people? And we honestly, now we have like a huge, I would say, pretty rigorous interview process.
Yeah.
I mean, we ask them to write a blog, we ask them to be able to like follow directions a certain way. Like, do they know? We ask like 35 questions during
I
this
love
interview
that.
process. And again, it's great to just be like, oh, I want a warm body, but the warm body might not, you might not be getting someone who is living, breathing your company and your ethos of what your company is. So you need to find those people, and the best way to do it is to interview, right? You have to interview them the right way. And I ask a lot of people, like, sometimes I'll ask other planners, hey, do you have someone that you've met that you don't have a full-time position for, but would be a great assistant, or would be, someone who's looking for part-time? And you'll be really surprised how many people are very, very generous in giving you people's names. And that's how we've actually built our team.
Yeah, I think referrals are for employees
Correct.
so great, but also keeping your eyes open when you're working at these events. And not like you want to hire from your competitors, but you might meet someone that works at a hotel that has great hospitality experience, that's looking to change
Yeah.
their career, and just be keeping your eyes open for talent in different places. I think I'm always recruiting, always
Yeah.
recruiting
Us too. It's the same way.
all the time. And you don't always have a position, but you can build what I call virtual bench. You're building, for at a time when a position does come open, you're reaching out to someone that you met at a Boston event or you went to engage with. And I do think that's a great, great way to build incredible talent onto your team.
And you don't have to always have people that are completely full time, right? I mean, I ask people, what hours work for you? Okay, I
Yeah.
can work Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, but I need to do this from home. Okay, fine. Like, as long as you're flexible
Yeah.
and they're being able to add value and take things off your plate as an entrepreneur, that's what you want, right? I mean, like, even though I typically get maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. I
You
mean,
don't sleep well.
how long are you going to do that for,
I
right?
want
Like,
everyone in the chat to share how many hours a night they sleep, because I think this is the most under-rested
correct.
industry that I've ever worked in. I'm
Absolutely.
so impressed with like how you guys fit in so much in one 1 single day, that it's
People
amazing.
always ask me, how do you travel so much? And I'm like, Honestly, it's about the
People are
best
saying
sleep I
five.
ever
It's not
get.
enough, guys. We need at least six. I love
Yeah,
it. I love it.
exactly.
Okay, so just to wrap up here, any advice for people that are newer in the industry, want to break into the luxury world, like how to get started? What are two or three simple things they can do to start, not overnight, but stepping their way into doing these larger budget events where potentially destination or even local?
I mean, honestly, it takes time, right?
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes a lot of patience. I think that for us, looking the part of luxury, whenever people are like, how do I get more luxury? I mean, you have to look the part. You
Yep.
have to be the part. You
Yep.
have to understand what luxury is. I think everybody that's new, you have to find that wherever you are, you have to find like that one really, really nice hotel that, you would love, like, I call it my happy place where I go to, and that's where I meet my clients. I'm already at my happy place. And
Yeah.
I think that that makes, a big thing. And I think that you have to offer white glove service. I didn't really know what that meant in the beginning. And I think that, a lot of us really take for granted, like, this is a service industry and our clients are hiring us to be available and to provide them with stellar service. So I think that that really has to be there. A lot of collaborations. I think the more collaborations
Yes.
that you do, there's such amazing talent out there, be it photographer, a
Yes.
DJ, and I mean, we started doing all these like little things like cocktails and conversations. We try to do it every quarter, right?
Yeah.
And it's just to bring industry people together because I learn from them, they learn from me, and we learn from each other. I think things like that take investing in that and going to those things.
Yes.
And let's face it, after you've talked to, I don't know, 100 people in a day, the last thing I want to do is get dressed up and go to a party at 6 o'clock and talk to more people. But then when I'm there, I have such a great time. I see people. It makes me feel like I'm part of this
You get
wedding
energized.
planning.
Yeah.
Correct. And
Yeah.
guess what? Everybody's going through the same thing, right? Like the same things that you're going through, every person in that room is going through. And I think that it really helps to have, that huge camaraderie of people around you that they understand you and they speak the same language as you do, which
It,
is weddings.
absolutely. And I think, just seeing people are sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. Not many people understand the rigor and, the heart that you guys pour into your events, and to have this community. I always say, cooperation over competition, that is supporting you and helping you grow. And someone asked earlier about coaching groups. I think it's great, even if you have an informal coaching group, you don't have to even have
Correct.
a formal group of people you get together with once a quarter that are like-minded. I think it's really, really important to have that community to support you when times get tough, and also just to bounce questions off of. So I think, Sonal, your community is so amazing. The fact that you do these cocktails and conversations, but also your anniversary parties bring people together. Our PartySlate events, we want people to create stronger relationships, and we want people to learn from
Absolutely.
each other. So this year we've shifted our event strategy to be really focused on more in intense education with the networking events. So half day of education, opening party, like a mini conference, but it's free for our members. We think that's a better environment to create these deeper relationships that aren't just cocktail party and leave and grab a business card. So we too have shifted our strategy. But I know we only have like 5 or 6 minutes left. I don't have any additional questions. Sonal, before I jump back to what's next for PartySlate, any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
Well, I think everybody needs to get more sleep.
Yes.
Definitely take care of your health. And
Yes.
I think that, collaboration partnership is everything. And if you don't know how to get a hold of me, then go on our Instagram and
Yes. Absolutely.
DM me. I guess that's the new thing. Everybody just DMs
Yeah.
each other.
That's the new
But no,
shortcut.
I'm always,
No one emails it.
yeah,
Just DM.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always happy to answer anybody's questions. And
Awesome.
yeah,
And we're going to send a link to Sonal's profile page, and you can dig into her stunning work. And I guess one thing I would ask of this audience, whether you're a PartySlate member and have an elevated profile page, or you have a free profile, you just get dipping your toe in the water. go to PartySlate Pro. So you just log in from your profile page and you can go to edit profile. You can go right to this page and play around a little bit with search my photos. And, even if it's just, again, you can only see your own photos. So you have to have some photos, but, we're trying to make it easy when a client asks about dance floors and things like that. Within seconds, all your dance floors, by the way, these are stunning, Sonal, are going to come up. Play around with uploading, private content and public content to your profile page. You can play around with looking at, editing your profile and adding your pricing, your FAQs, your testimonials. We want to provide, Sonal, you talked about venues having these event spaces and all the videos. You can do all of that on PartySlate, and it's much easier than building a $30,000 website. I'm not saying your website isn't important. It is, but for a relatively lower cost, you can, and even a free profile to get started, you can play around with this. And so what I implore of you is we want feedback. So there's a submit feedback button here. Play around with our new content library. Think about it as a modern AI-driven Dropbox. That is, again, even my mom who's 80 could use it. Play around with search my photos, and please send us feedback, because we thrive on your feedback. And Sonal, what I love about you is your honesty, and you're always willing to give us feedback. And just like your clients give you feedback, that's how we grow. And I really, really want to thank you for giving us your time today,
Of course.
and for making yourself available and sharing, how your journey to building, I think, one of the most powerful luxury brands in our industry.
Ah, thank you. You're so sweet.
Thank
So
you so
sweet.
much. And finally, I'm excited that we have 4 member-only events coming up: LA, Miami, Chicago, and New York. So reach out to us if you want to learn more about membership. And number 2, please go onto your profile page and play around with PartySlate Pro, search my photos, and give us feedback. Our next webinar is going to be a panel of planners. We're excited to have that. And then we're going to have another product showcase in June, May or June. I should know that. But stay tuned for more information. Sonal, it's a pleasure. You're an inspiration. And
Ah, thank
chat
you.
was on fire. I know we didn't get to all of your questions, but if you want to reach out to Sonal, she is generous with her time. And I know you guys can DM her or reach out to her on her website.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, Julie.
Great. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.